Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Freeland, and for this week's discussion post, we'll be going over our air transportation analysis for the Freeland Land Management Group. I am Eric Freeland, and we'll get into it. So, for our analysis with this, really and truthfully, what we're kind of really looking at doing with this is comparing the airlines versus on demand flights with our current location in Tennessee, or even if we were to expand into Afton, Oklahoma. Um, we're looking at that expansion because we are growing as a company, which is a good thing. One of the downsides to the Oklahoma growth is that it could potentially lead us into longer travel times because most of the destinations we go to are going to be farther away from Oklahoma. Um, and then just the on demand side of it just increases the value of the company, increases our time away. It increases things such as customer acquisition. We can get to customers faster if it's a need that we need to be there quickly. There's things and benefits that come with on-demand flying that we can't find with the airlines. Um, and when considering this, I look at four really big things. Scheduling is the biggest because being able to have that customized schedule that we set, not the airline set, we can kind of go and whenever we need to, things of that nature. Lastly, is location. Being able to either one, get to the airplane the quickest because it's in a hangar here close by, or we can get to an airport where the customer is pretty much relatively close by to. Whereas with the airlines, we have to fly to the big cities to either get on an airline flight there and then fly to another bigger city and then drive from that big city to the client or the piece of property that's for sale. Um, the value is another really big important factor for this one. There's different things we look at, such as tax write-offs, just liquid value to the company, increases revenue for us because we can get places faster and do more work to increase our revenue with the on-demand flying. And lastly, is comfort. To be able to have the ability to sit in a comfortably plush seat with plenty of room for your legs, and it just that right there is just so much easier on you than it would be if you were to actually go to an airline where you're in a cramped space. So as we look at our travel demand here, our COO flies roughly as of right now out of Tennessee about 750-ish hours. Whereas if we move to Oklahoma, it'll increase to 876 hours, which is a long time to be away from actually doing something work related um, as of right now. And there's a number of different factors that can go involved in that. But if we were to do on demand, that stuff would drastically decrease. I looked at four different types of aircraft to see which one probably fit the needs of our company. For that, I looked at a weighted factor scale to see which one probably would benefit us the most. Those four aircraft I looked at were the TBM 930, King Air 350i, the Phenom 300, and the Citation Latitude. So this is a chart of that weighted factor stuff. We have things such as purchase price, age, value factor, cabin volume, wing loading, payload with max takeoff, or with max fuel, range with max payload, direct operating cost per hour on a 300 mile trip, and maintenance costs. Um, and as we see off here to the side, the two highest scoring one was the Phenom 300 and the King Air 350i. And then the Citation was close. Really, the only big thing that kind of helped them a lot was the value factor on the Citation. And then the TBM was pretty far behind the rest of the pack. So travel costs and miles. I took the two that really kind of fit us the best and compared it to the airlines. As we see here with our charts for the airline right now, as the way it sits, we're well over 50 days that we're having to stay overnight at hotels and things of that nature. because it's just with the layovers and everything the airline has. We also see our trip times, which we've already discussed, that we're having to deal with right now, and then the cost is roughly between 70 to $84,000 a year that the COO flies through the airlines. But if we look here at the King Air 350i as well as the Phenom 300, you see all of those numbers really drop. For the King Air 350i, we end up saving anywhere between 580 to 671 hours a year with the King Air. That's a lot of time to sit there and go see new customers, see current customers, go see new plots of land, all that sort of stuff. And then the same with the Phenom 500 Phenom 300, that actually increases even further, and we save anywhere between 606 to 702 hours, which is a lot of time. That's almost, moving to Afton, Oklahoma. That's almost the entire time it would be that the COO is spending in the air, if using the airlines out of Tennessee. So that's going to save us a lot of time. And then looking at our locations, the big thing that I like with the locations is we can fly to those small airports, so we don't have to travel very far. As we see here, this is the longest mile trip that we have, and it's just shy of 1,000 nautical miles. This this flight, if we're looking at both the King Air 350i and the Phenom 300, takes anywhere between a little over 2 hours and 25 minutes all the way up to 3 hours and 27 minutes. Going that far, really, that's a pretty quick trip, especially when you're considering that you can get to the closest airport from Afton, Oklahoma, which is KGMJ. And then we can go all the way down to Whitham, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, Florida. And so it really cuts down on a lot of stuff. Also here we see that the direct costs for both of those is under $3,500 for that flight. So it's kind of expensive when you think of it just from that aspect of it. But when you're talking about time saving to be able to get down there and faster and meet with the customers, you have plenty of time to sit there and pick back up, go somewhere else, and meet another customer that day, and still get a full day out of it. So that's the one thing that you got to keep in mind with this. Then we're looking at our value factor here. Get back up to it. I don't know how that happened. The NBAA states that companies that utilize business aircraft outperforms non-aviation users in several important financial measures, including annual earning growth, stock and dividend growth, total share price, market capitalization, and other financial yardsticks. So when you're looking at this, when we compare them, it's a big increase from our airline usage. However, a lot of this stuff can actually benefit the company with tax deductions, which we'll get into, and then also just straight up liquid. If we needed to sell the aircraft, if we paid for it outright, we can get that out underneath us and have a pretty chunk of change coming in, as well as it doesn't include the value that we would gain if we were to increase that revenue. So that would offset a lot of this, because I believe that we would gain more revenue than we would be spending going this route. But with that being said, here we have the King Air 350i and the Phenom 300 again. The purchase prices are several $1,000,000. They do add a pretty decent value factor for us. And then our short trips are relatively cheap in the long haul, with our estimated yearly cost being as low as $1.2 million. And then our estimated hourly cost is a little over $3,000 on the low end per hour. So it is up there, but I think that being able to take multiple trips a day to different cities to see different customers, different pieces of property to purchase, to work on, all of that stuff will outweigh everything that we see here listed down. Um, so I think if with that in mind, it would benefit our company a lot to sit there and make this change, and it's something that we should seriously consider. And then if we were to sit there and look at charter flying, here we see a chart here. We need to make sure that we're flying somewhere between 200 to 250 hours a year in either the Phenom 300 or the King Air 350i to end up saving us money if we were to do a straight charter flight. Each charter flight is going to cost us $5,000 no matter how far we go. So it's something that if it's a short term thing, we're not flying that much, I would suggest we go charter. However, with what we're looking at seeing every year, it's going to range between um, 213 to about 313 hours of flight time. So that's well over our marks that we need to hit for saving money compared to our charter flying operations. And then comfort, like I was saying earlier, to be able to have that leg room. A lot of these things have desks set up to where they're foldable desks where you can either eat and have plenty of room. You can hold meetings, whether that's Zoom meetings on the computer, in-person meetings in the aircraft. There's plenty of leg room, plenty of space. They're set up for meetings. So in reality, work can still continue while you're in the flight, versus in the airlines, you're jammed in there. There's not a lot of room. The folding table is super small. You may or may not be able to put a small laptop on it to work. Even then, you're probably not going to work with being in those tiny seats next to somebody else who's snoring. So this gives you plenty of room to continue to work, so that way the company doesn't skip a beat, and we can keep the ball rolling. And then another big benefit is that how clean this airplane is. We can hire a cleaning crew that we know is going to do a really good job. And if you can tell with these seats right here on the King Air, that those tan seats or the white seats with the Phenom 300, they're both very plush. They're going to be comfortable. You're going to have ample leg room and everything, and it's just you're not going to find that in airline. And then the way that I would structure this out is that if something needs to be done in an emergency capacity, um, then it needs to be approved. And it needs approval from the CEO or the COO if it's within the 2 week scheduling window. I believe all flights should be scheduled out at least 2 weeks ahead of time. And then basically the way it would go down is the CEO would be the head one in charge, followed by the COO. And then we have a chief pilot. Then that chief pilot would also have 3 other pilots beneath them. That way, in case if one's on vacation, sick, or vacation and sick, there's different things that we can do here to make sure that we can keep going. And it could be one of those things where the aircraft is just we're boom, 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 and we got to go to multiple airports in a 48-hour window, and it could be that some of those pilots are capping out on the time and they can't fly, and now the airplane becomes grounded, and it could be that we just bring an extra one along. That way we can just keep the ball rolling, especially if it's on the King Air 350i and the Phenom 300, because they both only require one pilot. So in reality, you can have one there for safety, but if they're capped, then you only need the one to really fly it and still be legal to fly. And then my references are right here for our quote. But that's it. Thank you.